Bob Zemeckis and I met Ron when Ron was working for John Milius designing Conan the Barbarian. Of course, Bob and I were good friends with John Milius, and we would always stop by his office, see what was going on. And I was a huge Conan fan. I read all the Robert E. Howard reprints when I was in high school, and I knew John was the perfect guy to direct a movie about Conan. And this was the first time I'd met Ron and discovered that there was more to him than the great editorial cartoons that he used to do at the LA Free Press that I remember reading when I was in college all the time. So Ron was a cartoonist who I admired. And then I saw, oh my God, he's a production designer. He's designing these swords. He's designing these sets. And he was just a very affable, wonderful guy. So, fast forward to 1984, and Bob and I are trying to figure out what is the DeLorean time machine going to look like. And our production illustrator, Andrew Probert, had come up with some ideas for it, which were good, but they looked a little bit too slick. They looked very clean and machine and futuristic. And our sense of this was that Doc Brown built this in his garage, and it shouldn't be as polished as this. And we thought, wow, you know what? Maybe we get Ron Cobb to work on this for a couple of weeks. Would love to see what he would come up with. So we checked into Ron's availability, and he was available. We were able to snag him for 2 weeks. And we said, Ron, this is what we want. We want this to look like it came out of Doc Brown's garage. Well, what you get with Ron is not just a guy who can design stuff and make stuff look great and look interesting and look cool. Ron started to think about, okay, there's a nuclear reactor in this vehicle. How would that work? How would Doc Brown have actually put a nuclear reactor in here? Where would it go? How would it actually work? And Ron developed these very intricate blueprints that showed the various systems that you would have in a nuclear reactor, from the nuclear core to where you would put the plutonium in, to how the energy would generate the electricity, to how it would vent. And it was amazing that he thought about the actual logic of a nuclear reactor in a car, and he made it look as cool as it did. So he explained all this to us, and we were just blown away that he had put all this thought into it and made it look the way that he did, because everything that was there had a reason. And that was, I think, his approach. He said, what's the backstory here? What makes sense? And we would ask him questions, and he would always have an answer. He designed a version of the cockpit where, of course, computers were a lot more unwieldy then than they are today. He actually took out the driver's seat to put more equipment in there. And we said to him, well, that's probably what would happen, but for the purpose of the movie, we're gonna have to have two characters sitting in this thing, so the passenger seat's gonna have to go back. So he made a smaller version of that, and again thought about, okay, there'd have to be a computer here to control the time circuits and displays and all this sort of stuff. And so by the time he finished, he had designed a lot of the key elements. And in terms of the actual look of the car, the main thing that we augmented from what he did was to add the second cooling vent on the passenger side, rear side of the car, just for balance and because it made it look more like a wicked car, as well as saying, okay, this small nuclear reactor actually has two cooling towers instead of one. Mm-hmm. And then there were, practical things that we had to determine, which was, okay, yeah, he had the the flux bands going around the car, but they had to actually go in a different position because if they were too low to the ground, then they would get busted up when the car drove. Practical things like that. But in terms of what he designed and his thought processes, he brought so much to the party. And when he finally saw the movie and saw what the car looked like, he couldn't have been happier. He was very, very proud of his work on Back to the Future.